This is Green Hell VR, a survival adventure game where you are stranded in the Amazon rainforest trying to find a way to escape. There are actually 4 game modes in this title. There's a main story mode, which has about a 9-hour campaign if you focus on the objectives, but my friend and I took about 14 hours due to bugs, glitches, and us just exploring and having fun. Campaign supports up to 4-player multiplayer. There is also the Spirits of Amazonia prequel story mode, which I haven't beaten, but is allegedly another 10-hour-long campaign that only supports single player. There's a single-player challenge mode where you are tasked with completing timed challenges. And a survival mode, which is where you just survive as many days as you can, and survival mode also supports multiplayer up to 4 players. I am mainly covering the base campaign in this review because it's what I fully completed. I really look forward to playing through Spirits of Amazonia campaign as well, but I think I'm going to have to backlog it as there's just too many great titles dropping right now. This game has some of the harshest survival mechanics I've seen in a game. You have to try and keep your carbs, fats, protein, and hydration up, while trying to avoid debuffs like insomnia, nausea, stomach parasites, fever, poison, and insanity. Even being dirty can be hazardous to your health. But swimming in the leech-infested waters to wash off isn't always safe either, and drinking from the lake will give you parasites. Rain will put out your fire, food goes bad, rattlesnakes and biting insects lurk around every corner, and there are larger predators you encounter as well as unfriendly natives. I first bought this game on Quest 3, and then I bought the PS VR2 version when it came out, as I usually prefer the haptics, colors, and sometimes better graphics of the PS VR2. Graphically, there are some major differences between the Quest and PS VR2 versions. Lighting is way better on PS VR2, with the Quest version looking very dull. PS VR2 has a larger abundance of foliage and grass assets, with more vibrant colors and leaf sheen, while the Quest is a lot more barren. The water shimmers and ripples better on PS VR2. However, the PS VR2 version does use reprojection, and it is noticeable. I didn't find it too distracting, but it was always present, so I feel like the Quest version has better motion smoothness overall. As far as gameplay, they're basically the same game, but I will say that crafting feels just a little better on Quest 3 and 3S due to the shape of the controllers, as there were a few situations where you had to put your hands together or wrap a rope around an item in the other hand, and the large orb controllers of the PS VR2 were noticeable. The game runs fine and is fully playable on both systems. But I did experience some crashing when streaming multiplayer on PS VR2. I imagine it is primarily due to me streaming. There is a Green Hell VR on Steam VR, but it's a different game, so don't be confused. I haven't yet played the Steam VR game, which is longer, is allegedly more open and more of a sandbox style game, with base building options that are not available on the Quest and PS VR2 versions of the game. I bought the PC VR version when it first came out, and the controls were really bad. I have not been back to test if they've improved, and I may attempt to play through and review that game in the future, but for now just be aware that the PC VR version is a different game and not what I am reviewing here. Green Hell VR started as a solo game, and I bought it when it first came out, but honestly I found it a bit overwhelming. On January 16th, however, they added multiplayer mode, allowing up to 4-player co-op, so I got together with my buddy Audio, and we both were instantly hooked. This game does have some serious flaws, especially in multiplayer. Sometimes when you die, the screen just stays black until you reload the game. Items can accumulate on the ground, and it seems to affect performance over time until eventually the trees don't even fall down when you chop them. Some areas have problems with items sinking through the floor, the game crashes from time to time, inventory for non-host players are unreliable, and sometimes they will load in with no inventory at all. And yet, despite the kind of regular frustrations we had, we just couldn't stop playing and found ourselves counting the hours until we could jump back in. While playing multiplayer, I also played solo, which is where most of the footage in this video is recorded. It is actually easier to play the game in solo in many ways, as you don't need to divide rations and won't be hindered by your buddy who's dying of dehydration or is dangerously low on fats, which are a scarce commodity in this game. Also, when you die, you don't lose your inventory, which is huge because if you die in multiplayer, everything in your backpack is lost. Also, if you see your party member die, you'll lose a lot of sanity, which causes hallucinations, both visual and audible, and can even lead you being attacked and physically wounded by your mind's mirages. This title does have a story, most of which is revealed to you from drug-induced visions you get from drinking ayahuasca. The story is shockingly dark, which kind of just fits in a game where literally everything seems like it's trying to kill you. There's only one area of the game where it's a flat virtual screen projected in front of you, at least in the main campaign, which is immediately at the end of the tutorial, which transitions you into the main game. All of the other scenes are interactive and take place in the fully immersive VR game world. You will make camps, build fires, and eventually learn to create some slightly more advanced structures like smoking racks and rain collectors, but you'll never have time to really get comfortable as you have to move on before you exhaust the limited resources in any area. Armed with little more than sticks, bones, and rocks, you need to hunt for food, protect yourself from creatures, and try to figure out by trial and error what is safe to eat and what is toxic. The world is pretty fun to explore, and it's easy to get distracted from the campaign while looking for food, making tools, and gathering supplies, especially in multiplayer where it feels like someone is always getting hungry, dehydrated, or trying to find a solution to get rid of a debuff. I'll be honest, I loved this game. It has a serious learning curve and it's very challenging, but the experience in VR was beautiful and treacherous. You have to listen closely to your surroundings, pay attention to the environment, watch your step, and constantly monitor your stats while also planning out when you should sleep, keeping track of sunrise and sunset before setting out on a trek to new areas. And while I don't really consider myself a huge fan of the survival genre, this game might have converted me. I highly recommend you pick up Green Hell VR on whichever format you have. Be aware of its flaws and frustrations, and go in expecting a learning curve and a difficult progression. But once you start getting settled into this game, it will be a memorable VR experience that you won't regret diving into. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and game on.